Hey guys, Bennett's not feeling very well today, so he didn't feel up to making a video, so I thought I'd just make one on my own. Probably try to keep it kind of brief. I thought today I'd talk about why I enjoy retro gaming. So, why retro gaming in this day and age? Why is it so popular? Why do people go back to it when we have games that are so state of the art? We have VR games now. We have games with 4K graphics. So why are we going back to Atari and 8-bit games, Nintendo and things? Well, for me and for a lot of people, they grew up with them. So I grew up playing. I was a little. Atari was a little before my time, but 8-bit Nintendo is where I really started into it. And then 16-bit is where I played a lot too, with the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, and so they're games that I know well. They're games I have nostalgia for. A lot of them are games I never really stopped playing. I kept my Nintendo and my Super Nintendo for most of my life into adulthood. I mentioned in some other videos where I did sell them at one point, but it was only a matter of years where I didn't have any of my old systems at all. It wasn't that long, so they weren't things that I ever went too long without. And there's certain games that I would go back and play. Like on the NES, I would always like going back and playing Duck Hunt or Mario 3 or things like that. Super Nintendo, of course, I always go back to Super Mario World or Yoshi's Island. Or games like Tetris on Game Boy or Tetris Attack on Super Nintendo, just like fun puzzle games you could go back to anytime, or like Bubble Bobble that we did a video about. Simple games that I always could go to, just if I wanted something I could jump into, something familiar, like just kind of relax and play. Some other reasons why I like retro gaming so much. Well, the games are simpler and they don't take as much time, which, depending on what you're looking for, could be good or bad, but for me, that's usually something preferable. Games, I know there's games out there that you can spend hundreds of hours on, and that's a great value, and if that's something you're looking for, then that's certainly an option for you, but for me, I don't usually have a ton of time to play games, and even if I do, I don't always just want to. I have a lot of things that I like to do. Like I played Breath of the Wild's probably the last game I put a lot of time into, and I'm not even sure how much, but it was definitely a rewarding experience, but it's not something I always want to do. Sometimes I only want to play for half an hour or an hour, and when you're playing an older system game, usually you get a pretty satisfying experience. A lot of them you can beat in that time, and you feel pretty good because you've played it from beginning to end. So that's another thing I really like about it. And then kind of the premise of this channel, where I'm playing the games with my son, and haven't really made any videos with my daughter yet, but we're starting to do more. And I have another daughter on the way, so another part of the fun is experiencing the games with them. Going back, well, that's been something fun just in general with fatherhood, is introducing some of the things I liked in my childhood to my children and seeing how they react and what they like and what they don't. And seeing what holds up and what doesn't. Some of the things we've gone back and watched that I liked as a kid, and I watch it now, I kind of shake my head like, what was I wasting my time on this? It's not very good, but it's really rewarding when it is something really good, and I see my kids really get into it and experience it the same way I did. Also, retro gaming is a lot more affordable, and I know it's not affordable as it once was, because the market's kind of crazy where some of the stuff is way overpriced, but even so, it's still cheaper than modern gaming for the most part. You can, I mean, even when a system like the NES is considered expensive. It's all relative, because you could still get the system for pretty easily for like $50, and then get games for like decent games for $10 to $20, which, I mean, that's a lot more than they were, but that's a lot less than buying new system games for $60 and then having to buy passes to play them or get all the DLC or whatever. And then there's a few things. I mean, I do like modern games too, and I do have interest in some of them. But there's also some things that are kind of turn-offs about them for me. I don't like that you're basically buying a computer when you buy a PlayStation or an Xbox, and even some of the Nintendo stuff that I experienced with Wii U, where you put in your game, then has to download updates, has to download patches regularly. You have to connect to the internet for a lot of them. A lot of it's just trophy stuff, which I don't really care about. There's I play games for the joy of playing the game. I don't really. It's about the experience. So trophies and stuff is not like appealing to me. And then I could see some online games. There's value there that I could see with multiplayer and playing with my friends, especially if I can't be in a room with them. But for the most part, I'd prefer to play something that's single player or local multiplayer. That has a lot more of what I'm looking for. And then some of these online only games that you're buying a disc for basically no reason, it just lets you access a server. I really don't like that kind of thing. I don't understand the point of it, really. Why even have a disc? Should just be a digital only thing. But, and then I think that, and it's not 100%, this is kind of a generalization, but the older games have more charm a lot of times, I think. A lot of the modern games that I've seen or played, but usually not the ones I play that much because they're not what I'm looking for, but they just don't have a lot of personality. It's the same kind of grim, gritty shooters, and it's just not interesting. I like games that have a little more style to them, and of course gameplay is big, but if a game has something unique about it, I'll be more willing to at least give it a try and get into it. But it feels like a lot of games now don't have that. And whereas a lot of the older games, I think there was more experimentation back then because it didn't cost millions of dollars to develop the game, so you could take more risks. Whereas the games now, they cost so much that you want to be very calculated with what you make, so you make games that you know will sell, and what sells is what you've already made, so that's why we see so many sequels and so many games that feel the same. I mean, I do like, the one thing I do like now is that there's more indie games, and those are generally what I get more excited about than AAA titles. Beyond Nintendo, the AAA titles don't usually excite me too much just because the reasons I already mentioned, whereas indie developed games, I think, still have kind of that retro spirit, and then a lot of them emulate retro games in a way that's appealing to me too. Something like Shovel Knight I find a lot more exciting than something like I don't know, Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty or things like that. Like, then, I mean, there's a place for them, and my son plays a lot of Call of Duty, and I'll play some of the modes with him, and it's alright. But if it's just me and I can play what I want, then I'm gonna sit down with something more like a Shovel Knight. So, Um, and I think those are the main reasons why I like retro gaming and why I stick with it. When I found myself without the old systems and without the old games, it didn't bother me for a while, but then through, I guess, watching YouTube and watching all this retro stuff, and then having a couple neighbors that had a few old systems and just seeing it around, it really started to. I got the buzz in me that I really wanted to get back into it, and more than ever before, and it worked out that I was able to. So now I've got the nice game room set up where I can play all my old games and have fun. So I've been really enjoying it, and hopefully you enjoy it. Let me know what you think. Do you prefer retro games? Are you more into modern games? Why do you think retro is so big? And do you think we're kind of at the bubble? I've seen people speculate that retro can't get any bigger and it's about to, the bubble will pop and we'll see values start falling down and people won't be as interested in these things. Do you think that's the case? I don't really know. So just let me know your thoughts and what the appeal is to you, and we'll see you next time.